The great hall of the Valthene Empire shimmered with blue crystal light. Princess Kiralin stood before the throne, her silver skin pale even by her people's standards. Her hands trembled at her sides. She knew what was coming. Empress Talvara sat on the throne, her face cold as ice. Around the hall, noble members of the court watched with barely hidden smiles. They all knew about Kiralin's shame. The whole empire knew. "Daughter," the empress said. Her voice echoed through the chamber. "The humans have asked for an alliance. They want to join our family through marriage." Kiralin's heart sank. She was the third daughter, the forgotten one. Among the Valthene, a woman's worth came from her ability to bear children. Kiralin could not. The royal doctors had examined her many times. They all said the same thing. Her body was broken. She would never have a child. Lord Velmoth stepped forward. He was the Empress's chief advisor. A tall man with dark purple robes and cruel eyes. "We have decided to grant the human request," he said. His voice dripped with amusement. "We shall send them a princess." As they asked, the court laughed. It was not a kind sound. Kiralin understood immediately. This was no honor. This was mockery. The Valthene would send their defective princess to the primitive humans. It was an insult dressed as a gift. The humans would receive what the Empire considered worthless. "You will leave in 3 days," the Empress said. She did not look at Kiralin. She had not really looked at her daughter in years. "Prepare yourself." That night, Kiralin packed her few belongings. Her sisters did not come to say goodbye. Her mother did not visit. Only the servants helped her, and they avoided her eyes. On Earth, Captain Jake Morrison sat in a government office in Washington. He stared at the documents in front of him. They explained his new assignment. "You understand what this means?" General Hayes asked. The older woman sat across from him, her face serious. Jake nodded slowly. "I'm to marry an alien princess. For the Alliance." I. The Valthene are an ancient race," Hayes said. "They have technology we can only dream about. This alliance could change everything for humanity. But they're also proud. Very proud. They look down on us." Jake was quiet. He was 38 years old. His wife Lisa had died 5 years ago from cancer. He had thrown himself into his work after that. Rising through the diplomatic corps, he had no family left, no children. He had accepted this mission because he had nothing to lose. "The princess arrives next week," Hayes continued. "Her name is Kiralin. We don't know much about her. The Valthene have been secretive about why they chose her." Jake looked out the window at the city below. "I'll do my duty," he said quietly. On the Valthene homeworld, the departure ceremony was small. Most royal events involved thousands of people. This one had barely 50. That told Kiralin everything about how little she mattered. Lord Velmoth gave a speech. "Princess Kiralin goes forth to represent our great empire," he said. The words were proper, but his tone mocked them. "May she find happiness among the humans." Several courtiers laughed behind their hands. Kiralin's sister Celira stood near the back. She was beautiful and fertile, already mother to 3 children. She caught Kiralin's eye for a moment. There might have been pity in her gaze, or maybe just relief that she was not the one being sent away. The ship that would take Kiralin to Earth was small. Not a grand vessel, but a simple transport. Another insult. A real princess would travel in a fleet. As the ship lifted off, Kiralin watched her homeworld shrink below her. The blue and purple continents, the silver cities she had known all her life. She felt no sadness at leaving. There was nothing there for her anymore. She had been a ghost in the palace, a shameful secret the family tried to forget. But she felt anger. Deep, burning anger. They were sending her as a joke. They expected the humans to realize the insult and send her back. Or worse, they expected the humans to accept her and prove themselves as worthless as the Valthene claimed. The journey to Earth took 12 days. Kiralin spent most of it alone in her cabin. She studied the information about humans that the Empire had given her. It was not much. The files called humans primitive and emotionally unstable. They said humans lived short lives and accomplished little, but one thing caught her attention. Humans formed pair bonds based on something they called love. Not on genetic compatibility or family arrangement, but on emotional connection. The concept seemed strange to Kira Lin. Among her people, marriages were business arrangements. Love was not considered important. When the ship entered Earth's solar system, Kira Lin felt her stomach tighten. This was it. Her new prison. She expected some primitive settlement. Perhaps a crude building where she would be kept. Instead, as the ship approached Earth, she saw a beautiful blue and green world. Cities glittered on the surface. Thousands of ships moved in orbit. The planet looked alive, vibrant, full of energy. The ship landed at a facility in North America. Kira Lin took a deep breath and walked down the ramp. The air smelled different than home. Richer somehow. Fuller. A small group waited for her. Most were military officers in neat uniforms. And in the center stood a man in simple civilian clothes. Jake Morrison was not what she expected. He was tall for a human, with dark hair touched with gray at the temples. His face had lines around the eyes, the kind that came from smiling. He looked tired, but his eyes were kind. He stepped forward and did something that shocked her. He bowed. It was not a mocking bow or a barely polite nod. It was a real bow. Respectful and sincere. "Princess Kira Lin," he said. His voice was warm. "Welcome to Earth. I'm Jake Morrison. I hope we can make you comfortable here." Kira Lin stared at him. Where was the disgust? Where was the anger at receiving damaged goods? She had prepared herself for contempt or pity. This simple kindness confused her. "Thank you," she managed to say. Jake smiled. It reached his eyes. "I know this must be strange for you. We've prepared a place for you to stay. There's no rush on anything. Take your time settling in." As they walked to the waiting vehicle, Kira Lin glanced back at her ship. The pilot would return to Valthos and report that the human had accepted her. The court would laugh. They would mock the stupid humans who took the Empire's trash. But as she looked at Jake, something stirred in her chest. A small, fragile thing. It might have been hope. She pushed it down quickly. Hope was dangerous. She had learned that lesson well. This human might be kind now. But once he learned the truth about her, once he understood what she was, the kindness would vanish. It always did. The vehicle drove through the city toward the countryside. Kira Lin watched the world pass by and wondered what new form of exile awaited her here. The house sat on a hill surrounded by mountains. It was made of wood, which seemed strange to Kira Lin. On her world, everything was crystal and metal. This building looked warm and alive. Jake carried her bags inside. "It's not a palace," he said with a small smile. "But it's home. You'll have your own room, your own space. No pressure." Kira Lin walked through the house slowly. It was simple but clean. Large windows showed the mountains and forests. The furniture looked comfortable and well used. Pictures hung on the walls, mostly of landscapes and animals. One picture caught her eye. It showed Jake with a woman. She had brown hair and a bright smile. They both looked happy. "That's Lisa," Jake said softly from behind her. "My wife. She passed away 5 years ago." "I'm sorry," Kira Lin said. "She meant it." Jake nodded. "She would have liked you, I think. She always said people were more than their labels." That evening, Jake made dinner. Kira Lin watched him move around the kitchen with easy familiarity. He cooked simple food, explaining what each ingredient was. He asked about her dietary needs, what foods might make her sick. The kindness continued to confuse her. He asked nothing of her. He made no demands. He simply treated her like a person. The next morning, there was a knock at the door. Jake opened it to reveal a woman with red hair and a friendly smile. "You must be Kira Lin," the woman said. "I'm Amy Patterson. I live down the road. I teach at the local school." Amy became Kira Lin's first human friend. She visited often, bringing food and stories. She explained human customs and answered questions without judgment. Amy treated Carolyn's alienness as interesting rather than strange. "Why are you being so kind?" Carolyn asked one day. They sat on the porch, drinking tea. Amy looked surprised. "Why wouldn't I be? You're new here. You're alone. Everyone needs friends. But you don't know me. I could be anyone." "True," Amy said. "But Jake trusts you. And I trust Jake. Besides, I prefer to judge people by who they are, not where they're from." Weeks passed. Carolyn began to explore the area. The forests amazed her. So much life. So many shades of green. On Valthos, everything was controlled and planned. Here, nature grew wild and free. Jake worked from home most days. He was a translator and cultural advisor for the government. Sometimes he would ask Carolyn about Valthine customs or language. She found herself enjoying these conversations. He listened carefully to her answers and asked thoughtful questions. One evening, they sat on the porch watching the sunset. The sky turned brilliant orange and pink. "It's beautiful," Carolyn said quietly. "It is," Jake agreed. "Lisa used to love sunsets. We'd sit here every evening when the weather was nice." Carolyn hesitated, then asked, "Do you mind talking about her?" "No," Jake said. "It helps, actually. Remembering the good times." He was quiet for a moment. "We had 10 years together. Not enough. But I'm grateful for what we had. She taught me a lot about love." "Lot about love. What did she teach you?" Jake smiled. "That love is a choice. It's not just a feeling that happens to you. It's something you build, day by day. It's choosing to care, to stay, to work through the hard times. It's seeing someone fully and choosing them anyway." Carolyn thought about this. On Valthos, marriage was about genetics and status. Love was considered a pleasant bonus but not essential. The idea that humans built it deliberately seemed revolutionary. "Among my people," she said slowly, "marriage is about producing strong children, about combining good bloodlines. Personal feelings are not important." "That sounds lonely," Jake said gently. Carolyn felt something crack inside her chest. "It is." As the months passed, Carolyn learned more about human culture. Amy took her to town, introduced her to neighbors. The people of the small Montana community accepted her with surprising ease. Some were curious about her silver skin and large eyes, but none were cruel. She learned that humans celebrated many things the Valthine did not. Birthdays, friendships, small victories. They found joy in simple moments. A good meal, a beautiful day, a friend's laughter. One day, Amy brought Carolyn to her school. The children were studying different cultures. They asked Carolyn questions about her homeworld. She found herself enjoying their curiosity and wonder. "Do you miss home?" a small girl asked. Carolyn thought carefully. "I miss some things," she said honestly. "But this is home now." Jake was in the audience. When their eyes met, he smiled. It made her heart do something strange. That night, Carolyn realized something that terrified her. She was happy. For the first time in her adult life, she felt valued, not for what she could produce or what status she carried, but simply for being herself, and she was developing feelings for Jake. It scared her. She was broken, worthless. She could give him nothing that her people considered important. He deserved someone whole, someone who could give him children if he wanted them, but Jake never mentioned children. He never asked about her fertility. He simply enjoyed her company, shared his life with her, made her laugh. One evening, they cooked dinner together. It had become a routine. Jake chopped vegetables while Carolyn prepared the sauce, following the recipe he had taught her. "You've gotten good at this," Jake said, tasting her work. "This is better than mine." "You're a good teacher," Carolyn replied. "I have a good student." He paused, then said carefully, "Carolyn, can I ask you something personal?" Her stomach tightened. Yes. Are you happy here? Really happy? Because if you're not, if you want something different, we can change things. This arrangement, it doesn't have to be what it is. You have choices. Kira Lynn looked at him. His face was open, honest. He meant it. He would let her go if she wanted. I'm happy, she said softly. Happier than I've been in years. Good, Jake said. Me too. They stood there in the kitchen, and something passed between them. An understanding. A connection. Over the next weeks, they grew closer. Not through grand gestures, but through small moments. Hands brushing while washing dishes. Sitting closer on the couch while watching movies. Long conversations that stretched late into the night. Amy noticed. You two are good together, she said one day when Jake was out. We're friends, Kira Lynn said. Amy raised an eyebrow. If you say so. The change happened gradually. One night, they stayed up talking about their pasts. Kira Lynn told Jake about growing up as the defective princess. About the doctors who poked and prodded her. About the way her mother stopped looking at her. Jake listened without judgment. When she finished, he took her hand. I'm sorry you went through that, he said. I can't have children, Kira Lynn said. She needed him to understand. That's why they sent me. I'm broken. They gave you damaged goods as an insult. Jake's grip on her hand tightened. You're not damaged. You're not goods to be traded. You're Kira Lynn. You're smart and kind and brave. You left everything you knew to come here. That takes strength. Kira Lynn felt tears on her face. She had not cried in years. How can you say that? You don't even know if we're compatible. If we could ever be more than this. I don't care, Jake said. I didn't fall for you because of what you might give me. I fell for you because you're you. Because you make me laugh. Because you see the world in ways that amaze me. Because when I'm with you, I feel alive again. You fell for me? Kira Lynn whispered. Jake smiled. Yeah, I did. If that's okay. Kira Lynn kissed him. It was her first real kiss. The first one born from true feeling rather than duty. It felt like coming home. Nearly a year had passed since Kira Lynn arrived on Earth. She and Jake had married in a small ceremony with Amy and a few close friends. It was nothing like a Valthene royal wedding. It was simple, warm, and filled with genuine happiness. Kira Lynn had sent word to Valthos about the marriage. The response was minimal. A brief acknowledgement from a minor court official. Her family did not care. She was out of sight and out of mind. That was fine with her. Earth was her home now. Jake was her family. One morning, Kira Lynn woke feeling strange. Her stomach hurt, and she felt dizzy. She tried to stand but had to sit back down. Jake found her pale and shaking. We're going to the doctor, he said firmly. Dr. Helen Carter ran the local clinic. She was a skilled physician who had studied xenobiology, the science of alien life. She had treated Kira Lynn before for minor things. Let's run some tests, Helen said, concerned by Kira Lynn's symptoms. The tests took several hours. Helen kept asking Kira Lynn to repeat information, looking more confused each time. Finally, she called in her colleague. Dr. Ryan Foster was a xenobiology specialist who worked with the government. He lived 2 towns over but came quickly when Helen called. Both doctors examined the test results together. They spoke in low voices, checking and rechecking. Finally, they asked Jake to join them. I need to tell you something, Helen said. She looked stunned. Kira Lynn is pregnant. The room went silent. That's impossible, Kira Lynn whispered. I can't have children. The Valthene doctors said so. They tested me many times. I know, Helen said. That's why we ran the tests 3 times. But the results are clear. You're about 6 weeks along. Jake sat down heavily. How is this possible? Our species are so different. Ryan pulled up images on his tablet. That's what we're trying to understand. Valthene and human biology shouldn't be compatible. Your DNA structures are completely different. But somehow, it's working. Over the next week, Ryan brought in more specialists. They studied Kira Lynn's condition carefully. What they found amazed them. Human DNA is remarkable, Ryan explained to Jake and Kira Lynn. It has what we call adaptive sequences. Parts of our genetic code that can interface with other structures. We never knew they could do this, though. What does that mean? Jake asked. It means humanity has a genetic flexibility that we didn't understand, Ryan said. Your DNA is creating bridges to Kira Lynn's genetic structure. The baby has traits from both of you. It's a true hybrid. Helen added. The pregnancy seems healthy. But we need to monitor you closely. Kira Lynn. We've never dealt with this before. Kira Lynn placed a hand on her stomach. A baby. Her baby. Their baby. The thing she had been told her entire life. She could never have. The Valthene doctors said I was infertile, she said slowly. How were they wrong? Ryan looked thoughtful. They might not have been wrong, exactly. Among your own people, you likely are infertile. But with Jake, something different happened. His genetic structure activated something in you that your own species couldn't. We need to tell people, Helen said. This is huge. If humans can do this with one species, maybe we can with others. It changes everything we know about genetic compatibility. Not yet, Jake said firmly. Let's make sure Kira Lynn and the baby are safe first. Then we'll worry about the politics. But news this big could not stay secret for long. Within a month, word had spread through the scientific community. Earth's government wanted to study the pregnancy. Other species heard rumors and sent inquiries. Kira Lynn knew she had to tell her family. She sent a message to Valthos, carefully worded. She explained she was pregnant but did not immediately reveal the father was human. The response came faster than expected. A full delegation would come to Earth to verify the pregnancy. The message was signed by the Empress herself. They don't believe you, Jake said, reading the message. They think it's a trick. Of course they do, Kira Lynn said bitterly. The defective princess suddenly pregnant? They'll think I found some technology to fake it. 3 weeks later, a Valthene ship entered Earth's orbit. It was a real diplomatic vessel this time. Not a simple transport. The Empire was taking this seriously. The delegation landed with great ceremony. It was led by Lord Zanmark, the chief imperial physician. He was an old man, prestigious and proud. With him came Princess Celira, Kira Lynn's sister. Kira Lynn had not seen Celira in over a year. Her sister looked the same. Beautiful, confident, perfect. Everything Kira Lynn had never been. Sister, Celira said. Her tone was cool. You have made quite a claim. It's not a claim, Kira Lynn replied. It's the truth. Lord Zanmark was all business. We will verify this immediately. I have brought equipment from Valthos. If you are truly pregnant, we will know. The examination took place at a government medical facility. Human doctors and Valthene doctors worked side by side. The Valthene brought scanners and devices Earth had never seen before. Kira Lynn lay on the examination table while they worked. Jake held her hand throughout. She saw Lord Zanmark's expression change from skepticism to shock to wonder. It's true, the old doctor finally said. She carries a child. How? Celira demanded. You said she was infertile. You tested her yourself years ago. I did, Zanmark said. He looked troubled. By all Valthene standards, she is infertile. Her genetic markers are inactive. They should not be capable of supporting a pregnancy. Then how? Celira repeated. Zanmark looked at Jake, really looked at him for the first time. The father is human? Yes, Kira Lynn said firmly. Silence filled the room. The Valthene delegation stared at Jake. Impossible, Celira breathed. Clearly not, Ryan said. He pulled up genetic scans. The child has markers from both species. Look here, and here. It's stable and healthy. Zanmark studied the scans with growing fascination. The human genetic structure is interfacing with hers. It's activating dormant sequences. I've never seen anything like this. We sent her to you as a joke, Celira said quietly, looking at Kira Lynn. We sent our broken sister to the primitive humans. We expected you to send her back or ignore her. We don't see people as broken, Jake said. His voice was calm but firm. We see them as individuals. Kira Lynn is my wife. I love her. The baby is a blessing, not a political statement. Celira looked at her sister with new eyes. Kira Lynn saw something she had never seen before. Respect. Maybe even admiration. The Empress must know of this, Zanmark said. This changes everything. Over the next days, the delegation ran more tests. They confirmed what Earth's doctors had found. The pregnancy was real, healthy, and unprecedented. Human DNA had accomplished what centuries of Valthene medical science could not. Word spread through the galaxy. The primitive humans had succeeded where advanced species failed. The princess, sent as a joke, was pregnant with a hybrid child. The mockery had backfired in the most spectacular way possible. Kira Lynn watched the political storm from the safety of Jake's home. Representatives from a dozen species wanted meetings. Scientists begged for samples. Governments wanted to study human genetic compatibility. But all Kira Lynn cared about was the life growing inside her. She felt the baby move for the first time while sitting on the porch with Jake, watching the sunset. Did you feel that? She whispered, placing his hand on her stomach. Jake smiled, tears in his eyes. I felt it. In that moment, politics and science and interstellar relations all faded away. There was just the two of them, and their impossible miracle. News of the pregnancy spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Valthene Empire, which had sent their infertile princess to humans as an insult, now faced uncomfortable questions. How had the primitive species accomplished what they could not? Lord Zanmark remained on Earth for 3 months, studying the pregnancy with Earth's doctors. The old physician's attitude changed as he worked. His initial skepticism gave way to genuine scientific curiosity, then to something like awe. The human genetic code is unlike anything I've studied, he told Ryan one day. They were reviewing scan results together. It has an adaptability we've never encountered. These compatibility bridges in your DNA. They're remarkable. We're still learning about them ourselves, Ryan admitted. We had no idea they could do this. Zanmark shook his head slowly. We thought we knew everything about genetics. The Valthene have studied it for thousands of years. We considered ourselves masters of biological science. But this, he gestured at the scans of Kira Lynn's baby. This humbles me. Princess Celira stayed on Earth as well. She spent time with Kira Lynn, and slowly, the sisters began to truly talk for the first time in years. I'm sorry, Celira said one afternoon. They sat in Jake's garden, surrounded by earth flowers. I'm sorry for how we treated you. How I treated you. Kira Lynn was quiet for a moment. You believed what you were taught. That worth comes from function. I was wrong, Celira said firmly. Watching you here, seeing how Jake looks at you, how his people accept you, I realize we were all wrong. You're not broken. You never were. The Empire won't see it that way, Kira Lynn said. Some will, some won't. Celira looked troubled. But they can't deny this. You've done the impossible. Back on Valthos, the political situation grew tense. Lord Velmoth, who had orchestrated the insult to humanity, found himself facing serious consequences. Many in the court saw the situation as his failure. He had tried to mock the humans, and instead had revealed their unique capability. Empress Talvara called emergency council meetings. The Empire needed to decide how to respond. Some counselors argued they should embrace the discovery and strengthen ties with humanity. Others felt humiliated and wanted to distance themselves further. The Empress herself struggled with complicated feelings. Her daughter, whom she had written off as worthless, was now the center of galactic attention. The child she had ignored for years was accomplishing something unprecedented. She sent a private message to Kira Lynn. It was brief and formal, but it acknowledged the pregnancy and wished her health. It was more than Talvara had said to her daughter in a decade. Kira Lynn showed the message to Jake. She still can't apologize, she said quietly. Maybe she will in time, Jake said. Or maybe she won't. Either way, you don't need her approval anymore. He was right. Kira had built a new life. A real life. She had friends who cared about her. A husband who loved her. A community that accepted her. And soon, she would have a child. Other alien species began sending delegations to Earth. The Korthon, a reptilian species, wanted to study human genetic compatibility with their own people. The Shin, who communicated through color changes in their skin, offered to share medical technology in exchange for genetic research. Earth's government saw an opportunity. Humanity had always been the newcomers to the galactic community, the young species trying to prove themselves. Now, they had something unique to offer. But Jake and Kira stayed out of the politics as much as possible. They focused on preparing for the baby. Amy helped them set up a nursery. Neighbors brought baby clothes and toys. The local community rallied around them. "People here are excited," Amy said, helping paint the nursery walls a soft yellow. They see the baby as a symbol of hope, proof that different species can build bridges. As Kira pregnancy progressed, more details about the baby emerged. The child would have a unique physiology, combining traits from both parents. She would have Kira silver skin but Jake's facial structure. Her eyes would be large like Valthine eyes but warm brown like Jake's. Helen and Ryan worked closely with Zanmark to ensure safe delivery. They planned carefully, combining Valthine and human medical knowledge. "We're making history," Helen said, during one checkup. "But more importantly, we're making sure you and your baby are healthy." 6 months into the pregnancy, a gathering was held. Representatives from Earth's government, the Valthine delegation, and several other species attended. It was meant to be a formal political event, but Jake insisted it take place at their home. Kira stood before the assembled group, her pregnancy obvious now. Jake stood beside her, his hand in hers. "We didn't set out to make history," Kira said. "We just wanted to build a life together. But if our daughter can help bring species closer, if she can show that our differences don't have to divide us, then we're grateful." Lord Zanmark stood. The old physician had become an unlikely ally. "I have studied genetics for 70 years, he said. "I thought I knew its limits. This child has taught me I was wrong. Humanity has shown us that connection is possible, where we thought only barriers existed." Even Celira spoke. "My sister was sent here as a joke. Our empire's cruelty has been revealed to the galaxy. But perhaps from that cruelty comes something good. Perhaps we all learn that worth cannot be measured by narrow definitions." After the formal gathering ended, Amy hosted a simpler celebration. Just friends and neighbors, sharing food and stories. This was the event Kira truly enjoyed. A child from town asked to feel the baby kick. Kira smiled and guided the girl's small hand to her stomach. When the baby moved, the child gasped with delight. "Does it hurt?" the girl asked. "No," Kira said. "It feels like hope." That night, lying in bed with Jake, Kira reflected on how much had changed. A year ago, she had been the forgotten princess, the family embarrassment. Now, she was at the center of a galactic shift in understanding. "Are you scared?" Jake asked softly. "About the birth?" "A little," Kira admitted. "But mostly I'm excited. We're going to meet our daughter soon. She's lucky to have you as a mother," Jake said. Kira turned to him. "We're both lucky. If your people had rejected me the way mine did, none of this would have happened." "We don't reject people for being different," Jake said. "That's probably humanity's greatest strength. We've always been a species of mixed backgrounds, mixed cultures. We learned early that diversity makes us stronger." Kira thought about that. The Valthine prized purity and perfection. They had become stagnant because of it, unable to see value in variation. Humans embraced difference. Maybe that was why their genes were so adaptable. She placed a hand on her stomach, feeling her daughter move. This child would be something new. Not Valthine, not human, but both and neither. A bridge between worlds. The Valthine had sent Kira to Earth as trash, expecting the humans to understand the insult. Instead, the humans had seen a person, not a label. They had offered kindness, where her own people offered only contempt. And from that kindness came a miracle that would change the galaxy forever. The birth happened on a quiet spring morning. Kiralyn woke to contractions just as the sun rose over the mountains. Jake drove her to the medical facility where Helen, Ryan, and Zanmark waited. The delivery took 8 hours. It was difficult and painful, but both human and Valthene medical knowledge combined to help. When the baby finally arrived, the room fell silent. She was perfect. The baby had silver skin like her mother but softer, with a hint of warmth to it. Her eyes were large and expressive, a beautiful brown that sparkled with flecks of silver. She had delicate features, a tiny nose, and a shock of dark hair. "She's beautiful," Jake whispered, tears streaming down his face. Kiralyn held her daughter for the first time. The baby looked up at her with those remarkable eyes, and Kiralyn felt her heart overflow. "Hello, Nova," she said softly. They had chosen the name weeks ago. Nova, something bright and new. Helen ran the standard tests. Nova was healthy, all her vital signs strong. She was slightly smaller than a human baby but within normal range. Her hybrid biology seemed to work perfectly. "She's a miracle," Ryan said, checking the readings. "Every system functioning well. This is incredible." Zanmark approached slowly. The old Valthene physician looked at Nova with wonder. "May I?" he asked quietly. Kiralyn nodded. Zanmark examined the baby with gentle, practiced hands. "She is perfect," he said finally. His voice was thick with emotion. "I have delivered thousands of babies in my life, but this one is special. She represents something I thought impossible." Word of Nova's birth spread instantly. Messages poured in from across the galaxy. Earth's government sent congratulations. Other species expressed fascination and joy. Even from Valthos came messages, though the Empress's was formal and brief. But the most important visitors were the simple ones. Amy arrived with food and gifts. Neighbors stopped by with flowers and baby blankets. The local community embraced Nova as one of their own. 3 days after the birth, Princess Celira came to visit. She stood at the hospital room door, hesitant. "Come in," Kiralyn said. Celira approached the bed slowly. She looked at Nova sleeping in her sister's arms. "She's beautiful," Celira whispered. "Can I hold her?" Kiralyn passed her daughter over carefully. Celira cradled Nova with surprising tenderness. The baby woke and looked up at her aunt with curious eyes. "I have 3 children," Celira said quietly. "I love them deeply, but I always saw them as my duty, my contribution to the Empire. Looking at her, though, I see what you and Jake have, something we don't value enough on Valthos." "What's that?" Kiralyn asked. "Love," Celira said simply. "True love. Not duty or obligation, but choice. You chose each other. You chose this child. That makes all the difference." When they brought Nova home a week later, the house was filled with gifts and decorations. The nursery Amy had helped prepare was perfect, warm and welcoming. That first night home, Jake and Kiralyn took turns holding Nova, watching her sleep, marveling at her tiny fingers and toes. "I can't believe she's real," Kiralyn said. "All those years thinking I would never have this." "She's real," Jake said, "and she's ours." Over the following months, Nova grew strong and healthy. She had her mother's curiosity and her father's easy smile. When she laughed, which was often, it sounded like music. Scientists continued to study her development, but always with permission and respect. Helen made sure Nova's privacy was protected. She was a child first, a scientific marvel second. The political implications of Nova's existence continued to unfold. Earth's position in the galactic community strengthened. Other species approached humanity differently now, with respect rather than condescension. The Valthene Empire struggled with the situation. Some welcomed the new understanding of genetics. Others felt humiliated that humans had succeeded where they failed. 6 months after Nova's birth, An official message arrived from Empress Talvara. She invited Kirillin to return to Valthos with full restoration of her titles and honors. She offered Nova a place in the royal succession. Kirillin read the message aloud to Jake. When she finished, she laughed. It was not a bitter sound, but one of genuine amusement. "What do you think?" Jake asked. "I think they want to claim credit for something they tried to throw away," Kirillin said. "They sent me here as garbage. Now they want me back as a prize. What do you want to do?" Kirillin looked around their home. Through the window, she could see the mountains. In the next room, Nova napped peacefully. Down the road lived Amy and other friends. This was her world now. "I want to send a response," she said. She wrote carefully. She thanked the Empress for the offer but declined. She explained that Earth was her home now. However, she proposed something else. She offered to serve as an official ambassador between Earth and Valthos. She would help both worlds understand each other better, but she would do it from Earth, with Jake and Nova beside her. The Empress accepted. Perhaps she had no choice. Perhaps she genuinely wanted to make amends. Either way, Kirillin became the first official ambassador between their two species. Other positions followed. Kirillin helped establish cultural exchange programs. She worked with scientists studying genetic compatibility. She became a voice for understanding between different species, but her most important role was mother. She raised Nova with love and patience, teaching her about both her heritages. Nova grew up knowing she was special, but never letting it make her arrogant. She had her mother's kindness and her father's strength. On Nova's first birthday, they had a celebration. The house filled with friends from town, colleagues from work, and even some alien visitors. Zanmark came, now a family friend. Celira attended via video call from Valthos, sending gifts for her niece. Amy made the cake, a chocolate creation that Nova destroyed with enthusiastic hands. The baby laughed as frosting covered her face, and everyone joined in the laughter. Later, after the guests left, Jake and Kirillin sat on the porch. Nova slept against her mother's chest, exhausted from the excitement. "Do you ever regret it?" Jake asked. "Leaving Valthos? Never," Kirillin said firmly. "They sent me here as an insult. They expected me to fail or be rejected. Instead, I found everything I ever wanted." She looked down at Nova, then at Jake. "They thought they were punishing me. They thought they were mocking humanity. But they gave me the greatest gift possible. They gave me a chance to find real love, real family, real home." Jake smiled and took her hand. "We're lucky to have you both." We're all lucky," Kirillin said. She thought about the journey that brought her here. The pain of growing up unwanted, the shame of being broken, the fear of being sent to strangers, and then the gradual discovery that she had never been broken at all. She had just been in the wrong place. Humans had seen what Valthine could not. They had looked past biology and status to see a person. They had offered kindness where her own people offered only contempt. And from that kindness grew something beautiful. Nova stirred in her sleep, making soft baby sounds. She would grow up in a different world than either of her parents knew. A world where the bridges between species were growing stronger. A world where difference was celebrated rather than feared. The Valthine had sent their infertile princess to humans as a joke. They expected mockery to be met with mockery, or perhaps pity. They never imagined love. But humanity had a gift, the Valthine Empire, for all its age and power, had forgotten. Humans knew how to see potential, where others saw limitations. They knew how to build connections across impossible distances. They knew that worth came from who you were, not what you could produce. And most importantly, they knew that love could create miracles. Kirillin kissed Nova's soft hair and looked out at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere up there was Valthos, the world that rejected her. Let them have their perfect genetics and ancient pride. She had something better. She had home. The princess, who was sent as a joke, had become the mother of a new era. And in doing so, she had taught the galaxy a lesson the Valthine would never forget. Sometimes the greatest gifts come wrapped in unexpected packages. Sometimes what you throw away turns out to be priceless. And sometimes, the ones you consider broken are actually the ones who will change everything.